Hey, everybody. Thank you for coming to the Concession Stand Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Micah, but off to our lead host of the evening is...
It's me, Sean. This is the Concession Stand Podcast, where we talk about movies and things that we like and whatnot and all that good shit stuff. Should I swear in the intro? I don't know. I should figure this out, Jared, right? I will one day, but that is not today. With me...
I started off so good. So good, Sean.
You heard it with... You already heard from Micah. We don't have to hear from him anymore. Jared, who are you? Tell us about you real quick.
I'm Jared. Happy to be here on what will more than likely be the last episode of this podcast.
Why ever would that be? This is the first minute we've been talking.
Been a good run. And if you wanted to continue to hear me, I do stream under Jer on Air. So go ahead and follow all those socials because I'm sure this social is going to die. There you go. There's my intro, Sean.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This week, we're talking about Ladybird, which was written and directed by Greta Gerwig, starring Saoirse Ronan, Laurie Metcalf, Tracy Letts, Timothy Chalamet. How do you say Timothy's name? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Is that right? You'd say it?
That's how I would say it. Yeah, if it's wrong, then I would need him to correct us. You know, maybe we'll look up videos of him saying his own name.
Timothy, if you're watching, let us know. All right. And Beanie,
he is.
Beanie Feldstein.
He's a big Newmans fan.
Is he a big Newmans fan? Okay. He looks like a Newmans guy. And Beanie Feldstein. The IMDb's...
was in two of our picks for this week.
She was. She's really great in the American Crime, the one about Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Anyway, the synopsis for Ladybird. Christine Ladybird McPherson is a high school senior from the quote-unquote wrong side of the tracks. She longs for adventure, sophistication, and opportunity, but finds none of that in her Sacramento Catholic high school. The movie follows the title character's senior year in high school, including her first romance, her participation in the school play, and most importantly, her applying for college. Ladybird. This is both of your first times seeing this movie, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
It's also my first time. I've been wanting to watch this movie for a while. And before we jump into this, I should warn that we are going to be spoiling stuff just from off the bat. So if you have any interest in watching this or anything like that, turn this podcast off. And not because of the Paul Newman stuff, but because you don't want this movie spoiled. I watched Frances Ha. I think that's a Noah Baumbach movie, but that's with Greta Gerwig. And so since I've seen that, I've had an interest in stuff that Greta Gerwig does. And so when this came out, I was like, oh, she's directing this. That's interesting. But I never got around to seeing it. I mean, like, my quick take was I enjoyed it. Thought it was, I wasn't bothered by watching it or anything like that, but I wasn't like, just like, I can't wait to watch this again type of movie or something like that. But yeah, do you guys have your quick thoughts you would want to throw into this real quick before we skedoodle, or you want a different jumping off point?
I feel like my quickest things are just that I found it a little difficult to stay invested in the movie or the characters. I'm kind of like you. I didn't have anything negative to say necessarily, but personally, I also didn't feel like I had much positive either. It's just kind of like, all right, like, I watched it. I think it also suffered a lot from the amount of hype that it got. Because I remember there was like a huge ad campaign that was like, the number one 100% rated review of all time on Rotten Tomatoes. And so I was just like, you're telling me this movie is the record-breaking highest rated movie on that website? This fucking better be about to blow my socks off. And it was very whelming in that regard. But that's not necessarily at a fault of its own. So
yeah,
but that's kind of my quick 2 cents right off the bat.
Yeah, I'd say I ended up having more thoughts about the movie after I saw it than I did during it. I think it led to me having a lot of really interesting conversations with people when it was done. I have a lot more feelings on this movie than I thought I would.
Hmm.
Um uh I struggle with this because I'll be interested in how our conversation goes because I have a very, binary rating system,
You
like a
do.
pass or fail. There is no middle for me.
Hmm.
And as of right now, I find myself very in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
I do think I am leaning one way a little bit more than the other, but I am serious. I am curious to see how our conversation goes to see if it sways me in either way.
It's interesting. So I didn't know that this had that high of a rating. I mean, the audience score on Tomato, I tend to look at that more than the
Yeah.
tomato meter at this point. But sometimes, I keep an eye on. And honestly, I try to stay away from Rotten Tomatoes
Yeah.
as much as I can because I do think that you start to build up that bias in your brain, like what to expect and things like that. So I try to just like I don't want to do that. If I see a trailer and I'm interested, that's really all I need or want. Or even I know we've talked about how we feel with trailers in general and things like that. But if I can stay away from them altogether, I'd be happy with that. But so yeah, with this is interesting because I did not know the tomato meter for this was that high.
Yeah.
Which is
Well, it used to be higher too. It was like front page news stupidly when the very first negative review came in.
okay. That's one of
But
those.
it was for a while it was the only movie to have 100% and like 297 official reviews.
Okay.
And it was like the next one was like 100% with 120 positive, so it's just like their point was like this is the highest 100% because everyone who's voted has agreed, and it's been 7 times more people than the people who voted for the last one.
Okay. Interesting.
I actually
Which
had. Oh, you go ahead, Micah.
no, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I actually had an interesting conversation about Rotten Tomatoes because especially for this podcast, I tend to also go to Rotten Tomatoes because I like to use it as like a barometer of what other people thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
I do tend to look at both as well, but I actually look more at the tomato meter because I'm more interested in that from a like marketing slash general appeal angle. Because I
Mm-hmm.
remember, I don't know how long they've been doing this, but I noticed it like maybe a couple years ago, where when I would buy tickets on Fandango, they would actually have the Rotten Tomatoes score
Yeah, I
like
remember
next
that.
to the movie. And if it was like certified fresh, that was like a really big like button that went beside it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always interested in the Rotten Tomato ratings for that reason. I tend to only look at the numbers. I kind of glance at the numbers, and I always try to do it after I see the movie. Um, you and I are the same with trailers, in that like I try not to watch them because like usually the cast is what sways me, and maybe I'll hear a little bit about the plot, and then I'm like, cool, I don't want to see anything about it. Other than that, I just want to go watch it because the trailers for me, I do think they still kind of fall in that category of giving a lot away.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing I don't really like to do, which I was a little bit more compelled with this movie, is I don't like to read reviews of it until after, like we discuss.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't mind looking at hard numbers, um, because I think that's interesting. But like actually diving into say the user reviews or the rotten or the like critic reviews, or even going to like say Letterboxd, I try to stay away from that because I feel like that sways my opinion more than I would like it to before having a discussion,
Mm-hmm.
just after seeing the movie. But yeah, it's funny because this movie also led me to have a conversation about Rotten
Rotten
Tomatoes.
Tomatoes. Yeah. Yeah.
I
It's
think I think the movie generated more after than it did during, which is interesting.
so it sat with you after you watched it, and
Yeah, like the experience of watching it and like what it like stood for gave me more um interaction or engagement than the actual act of watching the movie, which
oh,
I
okay.
found really interesting. Yeah.
Mm. I mean, I like hearing that too. Like, I think that's the interesting thing of that's kind of the point of the podcast too, is just us talking this stuff out, and the stuff that sits with each of us could be completely different and whatnot. So, I was looking too, because I was curious of like, I know we've talked about A24 and we seem to keep popping in with A24 movies, and I know it won't be the last, but I know that, because I was seeing if this was like the peak, like, I feel like now, and we talked about it with A24 and their stuff, where like people see it and you're like, oh my God, this is gonna be so great. And like, I'm not saying A24 is bad by any means, because I tend to do enjoy their films, but I do think that there is I don't want to say an expectation, but like a feel that you kind of, to me, it feels like it's trying to be like what Sundance was for what movies used to be, where it was like Sundance to me used to be like, it was legit like indie films that were super cheap, like I don't even, like maybe under 5 million, maybe even less than that, I don't know, like that was what Sundance was to me. Now I feel like Sundance is just like, you've got movies with like huge actors in it, and it's like, this is not what Sundance was supposed to be in my head, and stuff changes, which is fine. And so like A24 kind of felt like that's what it was. It was just kind of like these movies with like these little, they were movies that were kind of like taking risks and telling stories that maybe wouldn't necessarily be appealing to big studios or something, which I think, it's cool. I like that they're willing to take risks on some of that stuff. And so I was trying to see if maybe, but this came out in 2017. For some reason in my head, this was like early A24, but this is, a lot of stuff came out before this. You've got It Comes at Night. That was a pretty big horror film of theirs, a ghost story. Good Time, which is, I think, what we're watching next week. So again, we're watching another A24 film. But like, there's a lot of stuff that came out before this. So it was like, kind of like, was it the A24 hype with this movie or something, Because I do feel like there was a while where that expectation of A24 was like, oh, this is going to be good because it's an A24 thing or something.
I don't think it's gone away.
Yeah, no, I think
it's still very...
No, I agree. And I was just curious if that was maybe something that weighed in at that point, because I think that's where it's at right now with A24. And so, but
I just appreciate that Sundance reference you dropped in there, man. I haven't heard Sundance in years. I still remember the Sundance channel on DirecTV growing up.
Yeah. That was like, because I think like 500 Days of Summer was kind of like I want to say that was a Sundance movie, and like 500 Days of Summer is its own whole being at this point. But like when that movie came out, it was like, it was not that big of a movie, and it was not played at a bunch of theaters. But I think that was, and I don't think Joseph Gordon-Levitt was real, and Zooey Deschanel. Honestly, I don't think both of them are really the forces that they are now. Kind of thing.
No, I think that movie specifically catapulted them to kind of where they are now, for sure.
So I guess I feel like I'm kind of going off track here with Ladybird and whatnot, but I think it's just something to kind of look at and see the behind the scenes stuff with this that could play into that score and whatnot. Because I feel like we just based off of this quick little bit, I feel like we're all kind of in the middle with this movie. It's not something that like we're watching and it's like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's also something that's not changing our lives and gonna, I'm gonna, as soon as we are done with this podcast, I'm gonna go watch it again immediately, type of thing. Yeah. So, trying to, let me see here. Are there any spots or notes, things that you guys have that you want to jump in with right away?
Let me open my notes. The biggest thing I just keep thinking about in the movie in general is that her mother is emotionally abusive.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
I just like, it's
whole
very
point of the
childish.
Movie, you could argue.
Yeah, I know, but just like, I don't know. That's the biggest thing that stuck out to me as what I just kept thinking about. Other than that, I didn't really have too many like strong thoughts periodically. Like I wasn't like, oh, this is making me think of this theme. But then when that would happen, Jesus, this is an emotionally abusive relationship.
One thing that I think is interesting, kind of before we dive into any of that, is I do think it's something that we should acknowledge, and that this is a movie that is primarily about a mother-daughter relationship, and we're like three
Or
dudes
three
talking
men.
about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I had
So
that same thought.
I think it's important to kind of think of it from that perspective,
Mm-hmm.
as well. I personally think that their relationship being shown throughout the movie is the best part of the movie. I think that's the part of the movie that is the most well done. I think that's the part of the movie in which I was the most emotionally invested by like a long shot
Mm-hmm.
compared to all the other parts of the movie. Like when her and her mom were having interactions, I found myself significantly more tuned in to what was going on than I did during other parts of the movie. Um, and I don't think that mother-daughter relationship is as uncommon as one might think, unfortunately. Like it does get really like it's like there are parts of that movie that are like hard to watch with the way that they interact with one another.
Mm-hmm.
Um and I think that happens a lot more. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of like it, is because it does give you, especially me being a dude who did not have these kinds of interactions, kind of gives you a little bit of a view into what that may be like. Um, but I think that was by far the best part of the movie, and I think without that, um, I don't even know why you would
It's
make the
just a
movie.
girl going through school kind of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I will say, for me, it was funny seeing like them in school at the beginning. You know, they're doing all the church songs and stuff because that was like I was just going back to like Sunday school kind of stuff. Like that was taking me back like instantly. It was kind of funny. Um, yeah, the mother and daughter interactions were easily the strongest parts for me too. It was also, so I just got done. Well, I guess me and Micah both did relatively recently. I just got done watching Euphoria. I don't know, 2 nights ago or something like that. And so seeing it's 100% not fair to compare these two, but in my brain, I've got the school play scene from that show in my brain, and so when I'm going to Ladybird's play, where it's just like the whole play in Euphoria is outrageous, but it fits the show. It does its purpose and whatnot. But
Hmm.
going from that to this and those high school interactions where it's very kind of rough and raw and like just gritty and whatnot, I feel like I needed more of a break to kind of cleanse my palate from going
Hmm.
from Euphoria into Ladybird, because Euphoria is just rough, but it fits that show. It does not fit Ladybird in the feel that goes for it. Like it does get emotional and it's difficult at times to watch with some of the stuff, but it's like Euphoria is its own thing entirely. So I feel like that maybe had some effect into my experience with watching this and whatnot. But I do agree with you that the mother and the daughter relationship and experience and stuff was good. I was not expecting the beginning when she jumps out of the car.
Yeah, me either.
I literally went, oh shit. So
Hmm.
I mean, and they God, going that fast, there's no way I'd be jumping out of a car. And
That scene is in the trailer to the movie, which I unfortunately had seen several
mm,
times at that
mm,
point. So
I
that's, if
completely
anything, that's the only thing I know about that movie prior to having seen it. Was like
okay.
I remember from I being like, oh yeah, I wonder which scene it is where she jumps out of the car,
Okay.
and then I was like, oh, all right, it's coming up right here. I know it is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It
I think
was
the budget for the Euphoria High School was probably
more
more
yeah,
than the
this
whole
entire
movie.
movie. Oh no,
Yeah,
absolutely. There's no
that play
way.
was unreal.
There's no way it wasn't. I would be genuinely surprised. Um, yeah, it's interesting them touching on the topics. You know, her, because I was thinking too, since Greta Gerwig wrote this, like I'm curious how much of it is. She said she was not rebellious like Ladybird is. She was very straight laced into the rules, where Ladybird is not that way at all. She kind of just wants
did
to.
did she go to a religious school?
I think she did, but I would do not quote me on it.
So
Um,
the quote, she actually gave a quote about how she relates to the movie. And she said that like nothing in the movie literally happened in her life, but it has a core of truth that resonates with what she knows.
Okay,
Um,
interesting.
and they went through her like old like yearbooks and journals and stuff like that, and she even the crew even went on a tour of Sacramento apparently,
Oh, interesting.
to like kind of get a feel for it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's like very much rooted in her, but
Okay.
not all her, which I
Uh,
think is also kind of important to know for the movie.
yeah, definitely. Well, because I'm kind of curious. I kept thinking the setting of the movie is 2002 to 2000 and
Hmm.
2000. So because 9/11 comes up a couple
A
times
lot,
because
yeah.
because it's fresh. It's a different time.
Hmm.
But I thought like I was trying to think like this came out 2000. She probably wrote this in like 2015, 16, and so I kept trying to think like what was the significance of her writing this in 2002, unless it's something that she personally had some experience or something that went through like because I don't know, unless it's just I probably sat on that too long trying to think like why would Greta Gerwig write about 2002.
I mean, it maybe could have been like it's hard to if she was trying to write it from a modern perspective, it'd be like, oh well, there's iPhones and there's the internet and there, so maybe it was a way to just sort of write off like this was not the experience I knew how to tell
Right,
because
this is what I know.
when I was a child, I didn't have all that stuff. That maybe so it could be something like that.
I can't find an actual date, but apparently she had been working on the screenplay for years.
For years. Oh, okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah,
Makes sense.
it's I'm sure she wanted to tell it from the perspective of like legitimately what it was like for her
Yeah.
around that age. I wish I had an idea of when she was like, oh yeah, I started writing this whenever, but honestly, she could have taken a lot of this stuff just straight from her journals from those years. So
Yeah, and that's
He would have
completely fair.
been 18 on 9/11.
mhm,
So
checks out.
a couple like 3 years older, but roughly the same.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. And I think that the movie touches on a lot of stuff that is relatable in that sense. Like she kind of starts hanging out with like the cooler kids and kind of if you I don't want to say it's a trope or anything like that in some of these movies where it's like, oh, I forget about my real friends kind of thing. But I think they don't really make. I'm trying to remember. They don't want to go to prom. I was trying to think of like a moment where it's like they play into that. Like she's got her new friends and realizes, wow, these people suck. And Timothy's character is kind of just whatever. He's just there to
He
be
sucks.
like, yeah, he's just the character that like
He's terrible.
this is the character I love kind of thing because he's a bad boy.
I think
or
that's
something,
literally I wrote a note specifically. What did I say? Timothy Chalamet sucks. I feel like this is maybe what he's like in real life. That was my only note about him and his character.
Oh, they're gonna say that was my only note for the movie was he sucks.
That was yeah. Yep, that was my only note. Anyway, on to the next one.
See you guys later. Yeah, he but I don't remember where I was going with that train of thought. It's completely gone.
You're looking for a trope.
Oh yeah, sorry. The friendship one where it's like like is it playing too much into the like okay she's gonna go back to her friends back like that kind of stuff where it's like we've seen that hundreds of times at this point kind of thing and
I actually don't think they played too much into that, and I think that's just because Ladybird sucks. Like Ladybird is not a good person.
She does go back to it's not Jules who's
Yeah, that's her best friend.
is it Jules?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean like she does go back
The
to
euphoria in you is trying to doubt
it is
but her name is actually she goes by Jules.
Is it Jules?
Because I think her name is maybe Julie, but her math teacher, who she obviously has the biggest crush on, calls her Jules. Okay. And then she's like, I think I kind of like Jules.
I like Jules, yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like she goes back to her on a whim. Like she's literally just in the car to prom when she realizes she doesn't like those people because she even up until that point was trying to still make it work with them, like saying hi to them, being polite to them, telling Kyle that he like looked really great, and Kyle's like, I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
But then that was the moment where she's like, all right, cool, I'm going back to my best friend. So it was really it was a snap decision. So I don't think they played into the trope too much.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what I'm thinking of with the trope is like the realization comes at some point of like, wow, this actually sucks. Like, I'm gonna go back to my friends and what it is what it is. But I did like it's interesting seeing Beanie Feldstein in these earlier roles because I'm not super familiar with her earlier stuff per se, but I think this was probably around the start of it, and Booksmart too, which I don't remember.
You have seen Booksmart? I can't remember.
I have not seen Booksmart. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We could have watched it.
They but yeah, no, I like she's been great. I've really enjoyed seeing her in everything that I've seen her pop up in. Jake McDormand, I couldn't think of who the teacher was. It's Jake McDormand, which is kind of a small.
You know him from something else?
I think he's in Headhunt. Is it it's the Netflix show, isn't it? What's the
are you talking about Mindhunters?
Yeah, isn't that
No, that is a completely different person. That is not the same person from Mindhunter.
He's the guy from,
I forget his name. The guy in Mindhunter is also in the new Matrix. Jonathan Groff. There we go.
Yeah. He's in Glee, isn't he?
I have no idea.
I forget who it was. My partner also thought that somebody else looked like Jonathan Groff the other day, and I was like, no. a lot of people just get him like mixed up because he's just like a generic looking dude to them. I'm like, he has very specific features to me, and I think it also could just be because I love Mindhunter.
It could be.
So that dude is like lasered into my brain.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
okay, yeah, he is from Glee. Okay, so I do Jonathan Groff. And he's in and Scott just said he's from Hamilton. Okay. Oh, and Frozen. Okay, I'm going on. I'm getting derailed with Jonathan Groff here now.
I think what was interesting is that kind of going back to the hype thing. I think I was like 30 minutes into this movie before I remembered that I needed to take notes. Because I was just like, I was really excited to watch it and like dive into what everyone thought was so great about this movie. I actually didn't look up the Rotten Tomatoes score until after because I was going purely off of the hype that I remembered of when it came out and how people were like raving about it. And I was like, this is a movie that I should have seen a long time ago, but like now it's time. Now I to watch it, but then I finished it and I saw the 99, and I was just like,
"Is it
really?"
So I remember at the time when this came out, I remember talking with Kara about this, and it was basically it was this kind of like mental check-in reminder that like Rotten Tomatoes is not telling you that this was 100% good. They're saying 100% of people thought it was not bad.
Yeah, the average. Yeah.
All you need to do is have a 51% to be considered, that's a positive, not a negative. And then, so it could be a 6 out of 10 movie and have 100%, or you could have a super divisive movie that's really, so it could be an 80%, but I don't know. Am I making sense how I'm parsing this out?
Yeah.
No, that's
actually, I didn't know that's how the tomato meter worked. I thought it was an aggregate of the scores that the reviewers gave it.
It's just as long as the person, I want to say it's like 61% is their cutoff or something like that, with whether it's fresh or rotten. Yeah, if it's just fresh, if it's fresh, it adds to the positive part of the score. It's not like they average out everybody's.
So so if it has a 95%, it means that there's 200 positive reviews and like 8 negative reviews, not what they gave that movie as a score. Excuse me.
So like literally they could all be 61%, but on Rotten Tomatoes, that's looking real good. If they're all just above, assuming that's how they score and whatnot. But I do have to keep that in mind with those reviews sometimes.
Man, Rotten Tomatoes hates my ad blocker. So if it's certified fresh, it has a consistent tomato meter score of 75% or higher.
Okay. Which I think is still like, that's kind of misleading.
Again, that's saying 75% of people gave this a good review.
And I feel like
not even. Yeah, sorry.
No, I think that's like if it's only a 75% too, that's still like, yeah, it's pretty like, it's okay. It's not like,
Yeah.
it's not like holy shit, man, change your schedule, go and watch like kind of
Right.
thing. So I think it is something important to keep in mind with Rotten Tomatoes. It's turning into a Rotten Tomato podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's important because like
It's very integral to movie going now.
and also a 99% is like it's like nothing to disregard.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I completely agree. It's I mean shit, man, you see them like companies will pay to make sure the scores don't get released before a certain, they have their embargoes and stuff and things, which I'm always skeptical of because it's like, why are you being like what,
Right.
But I mean, it's in trailers and stuff, the accolade trailers and things that movies will put out like, a week or two later where it's like, oh, like they love promoting that stuff. That like, hey,
Pretty sure they'll use that in like their FYCs too. So
yeah,
it makes a big deal.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely not saying to disregard it entirely or anything of that type. But yeah, it's with this movie, I guess it is interesting to look at just because if I had a scoring system out of 100%, I would not be giving this a 99. This would not be a 99% movie for me.
Right. Exactly. Same here.
I
But
kind of want to go into the positives before I start like really maybe potentially dumping on this movie. Um I do actually like the way that class is kind of put up at the forefront. I will say that about the movie. It gets brought up a lot. I think it gets brought up in interesting ways, especially considering the like time frame in which it was brought up, because I think that stuff is still relevant today, but like in 2002 was a pretty interesting time to be thinking about how your class affects you. Like her mom and her dad constantly talking about money, her mom constantly like essentially referring to them as poor, talking about how she needs to like present herself in public and all that stuff. I think that provided a good background for the film and like what was going on in it. I don't think that. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say too, because we were kind of talking about the mom before, where like they don't really talk about why the mom, like her experience of like why she's so. I mean, we could think of why she would be, but it would have been interesting to see of like what happened during the mom's time of growing up, or what she experienced that made her.
Yeah, her mom was an alcoholic.
She said her mom beat her and stuff, but I'm not disregarding that. That's
yeah. Her line was it was something about like Shersh was talking about. Did your mom ever get mad at you for not picking up your clothes? And her response to her directly was, "Well, my mom was an abusive alcoholic," and then she just closed the door and walked out.
Right.
So then if you look like slowly at the film at the end, you see that she also had her kids at a really young age, because you can see it in the letter that she wrote to her. But you had to catch it really quick. I was surprised that they didn't do the whole like
reading the
Metcalf
letter
voiceover. Yeah, exactly. I think that would have been a nice touch, because it would have provided us that context for her mom and kind of where she's coming from. But like, young mother with a terrible mother figure to base her parenting off of is essentially Laurie Metcalf's whole character.
Okay. Yeah, I did like that whole sequence with, she was pissed at Ladybird for going to school out east, and they were dropping him off, like the whole airport sequence where she basically just does the lap, and then she wants to go and see her, but she can't because of you can't go up to the gates anymore because of 9/11 and stuff. And so I think that whole sequence was really well done, because I was kind of waiting to see like something's gonna happen where she's gonna want to talk to Ladybird again.
Yeah, that part of the movie I actually related to a lot, because I had a similar experience with my mom when I went to Oregon.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I told my parents I wanted to go to grad school. I didn't tell them where I was applying, because like part of me was like, I'm probably not even going to get into grad school, because like my college grades were not the best. But like when I got into Oregon and was like, yeah, I'm going here, I also had a period of time where my mom legitimately did not talk to me because I was going to the other side of the country.
Mm-hmm. No,
Um,
dude, I can imagine. My mom would have been the same way. I mean, there was a while where I was looking to move out west, and when I, it's just because
mhm,
as a film student, that's
yep.
what you do. You go west, and events happened where that didn't become a thing. But honestly, just me going to Purdue was very kind of like a nerve wracking kind of. There's no way I could imagine going from the complete opposite side of the country. And honestly, that cracked me up and made me think about too where she's just navigating New York like no problem. I'm sure like it's got to be confusing as shit. There's no way it's just like, yeah, just go here and you're at your school. Like, oh, okay. I don't know. That
I
kind
mean, it's weird because there's also this. It's as much as it is a story about a mother and a daughter. There are some things that I also have parallels with, and like
of.
the New York thing. Like, yeah, that city does not give a shit about you. So the more confident you are about just like going about your business, the easier it is. Like if you go in there like doe eyed and like, what the fuck do I do?
Right.
You're gonna have a kind of a rough time.
Mm-hmm.
So her just like getting off and being like, I live here now. This is my city. Was the smart play for her to do because I've also gotten off she got off the metro or the subway in that video,
Mm-hmm.
but I've also gotten off of the like Grand Central Station or whatever with a
Mm-hmm.
couple suitcases and just had to like hail a cab and be like, I'm going to this address, and the cab driver doesn't give a shit. Cab driver's not like, oh, you're from out of town? It's like, oh yeah, you have a good trip or whatever. It's like, yeah, sure did.
Yeah.
uh so yeah, I mean, she played that right, and clearly it's something that she had been thinking about forever. So knowing kind of how she walked through the world from the little bit of the movie that we saw, I also just wasn't surprised that that's how she
Mm-hmm.
interacted with that situation.
Yeah. No,
Um,
that's a fair point.
yeah.
Yeah, literally just me going an hour and a half away was like it was an adjustment. It's a weird.
Mhm.
It's definitely no matter how far you go, that separation it's a weird one that first time.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I thought that scene was well done, and I'm interested to. I'm kind of jumping to the end of the movie with this, but if she stayed in New York or if she ended up coming back home, because they do show her driving in the city, but that could have been a flashback of some sort or something, because I doubt she got her own car or
I
something.
think that was wrapping up the quote unquote love letters to Sacramento.
Okay.
Because I think that's probably maybe the secondary theme of the movie
Mm-hmm.
is especially knowing that that's where like Greta Gerwig was born.
Mm-hmm.
I think first of all is the mother-daughter relationship. Second of all is the love letter to the city. They actually kind of literally just say it when she's talking to um Sister Joan.
Yeah.
When she was talking about her college admission essay, she's like, wow, you really love Sacramento. And she's like, do I? She's like, well, you pay a lot of attention to it.
Yeah.
And then they go into the whole thing about like, is attention and love the same thing?
You're
which
right.
is
Yeah.
it's a whole other podcast. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I would assume she stayed there and just like went to college. I wouldn't need to see the reunion of her and her mom because that would just make the movie too long. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, that whole scene with her in college was interesting. It was so quick
It
and
was
so
very
much
quick.
happened.
It was.
Um, uh,
I did
was
see the original runtime for the movie was something like it was like 360 pages or something, which is about 6 hours or something like that for a
Yep,
movie.
yeah. She had
So
to cut it down.
just a little bit, and it's a pretty short movie. I mean, it's just over an hour and a half. So I'm sure
Wow,
there's.
'cause it feels so much longer.
It does. I remember I had to hit
really
pause.
does.
I had to hit pause, and I went and I usually try not to like sit. That's not a good sign for me when I'm watching a movie. If it's like I'm checking that shit,
I had
usually
the exact same experience. Yep.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I paused it about an hour, and I was like, "Fuck, man! I thought this was like wrapping up soon or something," And so
I paused it and saw that there are 55 minutes left of the movie, and I was like, "Oh, okay.
yeah,
What else is gonna happen then?" With the parents thing, that's another thing that I liked. I think Terry Letts crushed his role.
hmm
He's one of my favorite characters, and that's another positive I'd say about the movie is that I think in general the roles were acted out well. I think that Saoirse shined in her moments with her mom, which I think made up for the rest of the movie, because the rest of the movie with her, I would argue, was kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's any fault of Saoirse's more than it is like maybe say the content that we were seeing. But like when Lori was on screen, she shined. When Beanie was on screen, she shined.
Mm-hmm.
When her brother and her, like, I guess, quote unquote, sister, not in law, but when they were on screen, they both shined. So I think the movie was really well acted. And I'll save my second point to that after I give this movie more credit, because I do feel like I might dump on it maybe more than it deserves. Oh, the one thing that Kyle and I have in common is that we both agree that Dave Matthews Band fucking sucks. That's the one redeeming quality about him.
Yeah.
But to be fair, them crying together to Crash Into Me was very funny. I did laugh at that. That's a terrible song to be sad to. What else is good about? Oh, so I had this experience. Was the experience of her applying to colleges like jarring for you? Like, did it take you back at all?
I didn't really apply to a lot. I knew I didn't have the grades to get into any of the schools I wanted to go to right away. So I knew I was going to have to go to a local school and then transfer at some point. So I only applied to that one school. So so I don't really have personal experience with that whole process.
Okay. I did the opposite. I shotgun approached college. I applied to 2 master's programs, and then I applied to 1 doctoral program.
Okay.
And I got into like 2 of the 10 colleges I applied to. I got into 1 of the 2 master's programs I applied to, and I got into 1 of 1 doctoral programs I applied to. But like that whole scene where she's like getting the letters back, when her brother's like, Ladybird, you have mail. I was like, oh, she didn't get into any of those schools, because they're all envelopes.
Right.
Everyone knows that when you get into a school, you get an admission package that tells you about what it's like to go to that school.
Yeah.
So when you see that single letter, you have your answer. You're not getting in.
Yeah.
Like very, very few colleges send the one letter that's like, hey,
Welcome.
We'd love to have you. We'll send you more in the future. Like, it's like, no, we want you here. We want to make sure you go here instead of some other college. So here's a giant packet on why our school is great.
Right.
And so when she got that final package at the end, I was like, oh, great. She got in. Got the one, There's no more anxiety. But yeah, oh man, when that scene hit and she got all those letters back, I just remember like my chest tightened. I was like, oh, I remember getting all of those rejection letters of schools that I knew I wasn't going to get into, but I still was like, oh, why don't we try it? Man, it hurt. It still hurt. Even like I think I applied like UVA. Because it's an incredible school from an academic standpoint, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll get in. Probably not. But I still remember getting that letter, knowing well I wasn't going to get in. I was like, oh, this still hurts. Why does it hurt so much? You knew this was going to happen, and she knew it too. Her grades were terrible.
Oh, I know. Yeah. They and it all costs money. Like I'm trying to remember. They cost money, right? Yeah, it's not like.
So okay, but you applied to 1, but did you have to do Common App? Do you remember that?
I do not know. Is it just like a thing to speed up?
Yeah, Common App was like the Indeed of applying to schools, where you basically like put up all of your information onto one thing. Okay. And then if you need to change, like say an admission essay or something like that, that's school specific, then you could do that for each individual school. But Common App is where you just like literally put all of your information in one and could just fire off applications. Yeah. But you would still, in most cases, get a letter response back. They wouldn't like reject you through Common App. That was just an easy way to do that. So, but that still costs money. So each time you applied, you usually had to like, swipe a credit card. And from what I remember, most apps are anywhere from $25 to $50 an app.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it
I was
was
gonna guess.
expensive.
Yeah, it was not like if you're gonna be doing a shit ton of schools, yeah, that's not a whole thing. Yeah, that's interesting. That's yeah, I didn't really have that experience because then um I think when I applied to transfer, it was only to just Purdue at that point. I was looking at other schools, but then when I decided, like I narrowed it to that, and I only did the transfer application to that. But it's funny because I was gonna compare it to applying for jobs in this day and age, where it is just throwing that shit into Indeed and or whatever, and just firing them away. Especially now when it's all just digital, and it's just like what the worst that they're gonna tell me is no. The best thing is oh shit, that's awesome, or whatever kind of
I
thing.
think
At
I
this
maybe did one paper college application,
point. Okay.
and all the other ones were Common App, or they use their own portal. But
Yeah.
even then, I think by the time I was applying to schools, it was pretty much everybody was like, "Yeah, Common App is the way to go. It's just easier for them to like review."
Mm-hmm.
But like, yeah, she had to pay for all of those applications, which is interesting about the financial aid thing because there is actually a chance. I mean, it was 2002. I'm pretty sure they were still doing this in 2002. But you could write to colleges and be like, "Hey, I'd like to apply, but I don't have $50 for a bunch of applications," and a lot of colleges would waive your application fee.
Oh, interesting.
Um, basically, is like a pre-financial aid type thing.
Yeah.
But she would have had to sit down and like write all of her essays, or like check all of those boxes off, or like write her name in and fill them, put them in envelopes, put a stamp on them, like put a check in there, and like send it off to these colleges. Uh,
Dude.
So she wanted to go, and
Yeah.
she
You want
committed to
to?
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she also just like completely shit on UC Davis for getting like she got in, and she's like, "Oh, I don't want to go there. It's for farmers."
Yeah.
And it's like, man, college is college. And like last I checked, UC Davis again was not that bad of a school, but she just really wanted to go to New York.
That's what it was. That one was only a half hour away, right? That was her big thing. It was too close to home. So
Which I had that experience too, because the two schools I got into, one was 2 hours away from home, the other one was 30 minutes away from home. And they're like the 30-minute away from home was my like, if I get in, fine, I'll go. But like if I get in anywhere else that's further away,
that's where I'm going.
I'm going there. Yeah. Because 30 minutes is just it's not enough.
That's enough. Where like, Jared, we need you to come home today. You got to come home.
My thing was it's too close for them to just roll up
Yeah.
at all. Like a 30-minute drive is nothing.
Yeah. That's not. No.
It like, it's late at night, but if something came up and I had to drive 30 minutes, there would be no problem in my mind to do it. Whereas like if it's a 2-hour drive, I'm just like, oh, is this something that like I can like, at least wait until the sun's up and go do? Like, I mean, like, could I do it right now? Sure. But like,
Yeah.
I don't want to. But like 30 minutes, yeah, I'll pop over 30 minutes. It's nothing. And so that was my biggest fear, was like I'd be at a party or something, or like be throwing a party. And my parents would be like, "Hey, Jared, what's up? How's it going?" We just went, "Oh no."
Yeah. No, I'm studying. I swear, it's fine.
I'm just reading. I'm just reading.
There's just loud noises here. Don't worry about that.
I think that is all of my. I think that's all my positives.
Your positives, okay. Yeah, I am curious about your negatives here.
Ladybird is a hard character to buy into.
Yeah.
And I know it's it's not biographical or whatever, but like, and the other thing that I was talking to other people about is they're like, "Jared, you have to remember she's a teenager and kids are allowed to do like dumb things." I was like, "Yeah, but she's like not like a good person. Like she lies all the time. She like just completely disregarded her best friend in the hopes of not only gaining new friends, but specifically for the purpose of gaining a new relationship with a boy, which again is very teen,
Right.
but also still a dumb decision.
It is. Yeah.
Dumped a book full of grades for an entire class. Didn't get any consequences for that. Pranked that nun. Had that one real weird interaction with her brother about why he got into a school. and she didn't. And he was like, "You are a racist," and she was like, "Oh, I'm sure they had no idea, Miguel."
Yeah.
She's like, "Yeah, like no, she's not good." But you could eventually like wrap around to her relationship with her mom because
Right.
she's learning some of those things from her mom. So that was hard as just a character decision.
I think it gives the opportunity for growth with the character, but it is kind of it's difficult when it's
we don't see it.
Yeah.
We don't see it.
Yeah. I think
we see 2 instances of growth, right?
Yeah, it comes at the very, very end with
her going back to her friend Beanie,
right.
and then the phone call with her mom where she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry I was mean to you," and then where else? You know?
Yeah. I think that's harder to do. I think my brain is so wrapped up with TV because like TV, we get the opportunity to show it over a course of however many episodes, a lot easier. And again, this movie was short.
Yeah,
I think. I mean, we've talked about how it felt long, but there was definitely room to throw in if that was the purpose of the film. Maybe this was the purpose of the film. I don't. That's for everybody to decide. But I think it could have benefited from maybe some of that if that was its goal. But like, it's easier to do that stuff in TV to see whoever suck in the beginning. But wow, they really turned a leaf by episode 7 or whatever the hell. I don't know. But anyway, yeah.
I also think I don't know, it touched on depression a lot, but it kind of just introduced it as something that exists, and that's it. Like, we didn't really get to see any more of it. Like, it was just kind of like, this person is depressed.
He's just he's just over there, like, and he's
it's like a part of their character. But like the scenes say with I forget his name in the movie, but what's his name? Steve McKinley Henderson, the one priest who was teaching drama, but then he stopped.
Right. Yep.
Like we saw that scene of like him and her mom talking about how he felt, and then we never saw him again. Like,
yeah, that's true.
No, he's just like, I don't feel good a lot, and I don't have a support system, and I don't know what to do. And he's like, don't tell your daughter. And she's like, okay, I won't. What happens to him?
Yeah.
How does he progress in his journey with that? He never comes back to the school. We never know if he develops a support system. Like, it's just kind of like there. Or like with her dad, she's like, hey, I found Dad's pills. And he's just like, and her mom's just like, yeah, Dad's been depressed for years. And it's not like, oh, okay, well, like how have you helped him with that? Or like, how has that impacted them? Like, is that the reason why he lost his job? Or like,
why the mom's so high strung? Or
does that add more stress to the mom? Like, it's just like kind of introduced and never developed.
Right.
And so, like, I like that it's talked about because it's something that needs to be talked about, but like I do think there needs to be a little bit more movement with that whole concept. That's another thing that I wasn't super high on.
It seems like time was this movie's worst enemy because it's so crammed with but like then it's that weird thing where it felt long. So if it was long, but again, maybe that stuff spread out more to develop stuff, which then I'm more engrossed in characters. The cycle becomes a good one where. So yeah, I do feel like talking about this is making me realize that this movie needed to be just a little bit longer to kind of flesh out some of this stuff, maybe a little bit more.
And I'm trying to think of other coming of age films where like I felt like this, and I can't think of it. And like I'm trying to figure out how it would resolve it. Like, does it spend less time on stuff that is not necessarily, in our opinion, like pertinent? Like, do you spend less time on kind of like the small interactions and spend more time on kind of the like big storylines that end up with like actually seeing how that person comes of age?
Right.
Or like because it doesn't spend as much time on that, is it more of a comedy than it is like a coming of age, like
Mm-hmm.
dramedy, if you will? I mean, that's what it was nominated in the category it was in, which kind of brings me to my next point, and I understand if this point is not fair, but this movie beat Get Out for a Golden Globe.
Yeah, that's
Are you joking?
what
This
year?
movie, 2017, was the 75th annual Golden Globes.
Okay.
Best comedy or musical, I believe, was the category, and it beat Get Out.
Yeah, that is
I think it also beat I, Tonya was the other one.
yeah,
Or was that in a different category? That actually might have been in a different category. I don't even remember the other movies because I just remember thinking to myself, whoever thought this movie was better than Get Out doesn't know what movies are.
See, and like this is where it gets harder and harder for me to like. I do get excited about the award shows, and I understand the prevalence of them and things like that, you know. And that's where that kind of shit drives me crazy. Because yeah, I think just from an objective standpoint, like Get Out was, that movie was it was just engrossing. That movie was crazy from beginning to end. You are hooked. You don't know what the fuck's going on. It's just eerie. Like that movie is great, pacing wise, plot wise, the whole way through. Movie's great. So yeah, the fact that that's why that's
you could argue it. Like, I mean, the Golden Globes in general are not a great. I mean, well, I'd argue any of the major award ceremonies these days don't hold the weight that they should, primarily from like a diversity standpoint, because the people who vote just
Right.
it's not representative of
Right.
the country in general. So you could argue that is kind of more on them than it is on the movie, but like thinking about it from how people perceived it, and to just think I would ever have a conversation with someone where they would try to justify why Ladybird was better than Get Out just blows my mind.
It's it's also just kind of a weird categorization. Like
Yeah, the musical or comedy.
I
It's
would
not
not
great.
put those two in the same.
No.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
no. So that's just weird to begin with.
Like that category that year was Ladybird, The Disaster Artist, Get Out, The Greatest Showman, and I, Tonya.
Yeah, that's what the fuck is that? What? Like
Yeah.
that Get Out is in with a musical.
The Disaster Artist.
Yeah.
Like I mean, the only musical out of those is The Greatest Showman. So it's kind of just like, we got to get something in there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like drama was Three Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Call Me by Your Name, Dunkirk, The Post, and The Shape of Water.
Okay. Yeah. Like those I could buy in. Like yeah.
I think they've since maybe given comedy its own category, maybe.
Yeah, I mean they really would need to because that's
Although
ridiculous.
they're also kind of irrelevant now in general, so I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter. Let me see. Best.
Because what is it? It's Golden Globes.
Nope, it's still best motion picture, musical or comedy. It's been that way since 1951.
Yeah, that needs to be switched around because that is the most bizarre lumping of films
Yeah, doesn't
I've ever
doesn't
seen.
make any sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was another thing that is kind of unfair to the movie, but also I think just speaks to the general appeal of it. Where it's just like, yeah, no way. I'm really happy I didn't find that out until after I was done watching it. Because if I had known that before I watched it,
You would have
I'm
been
pretty
just
sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have given this movie a chance.
Oh yeah. But you would have been immediately the whole time comparing it to Get Out, which
Oh yeah, the whole time it would have lost.
Oh,
like
yeah.
from like minute 10.
Oh yeah, I think immediately it would have lost it for like Get Out was intriguing immediately, and I was hooked the whole time because it's so unsettling, and that's a great movie. But like you said, I mean you've said it that it's not fair to even throw it in with that comparison to begin with. So that's pretty stupid of the Golden Globes that's even the categories that both of those are falling into. So
I wish Micah's internet would start working here, because
I
I had a bigger question about the movie in general. And I was like, I would be really interested in what his opinion on it is.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's got to fix that internet.
he does have to fix that internet.
Yeah, maybe we can phone him in.
I'll give you a little bit more filler while we wait for him. I think the other scene that kind of redeemed her, and I think it happened maybe a little bit too early compared to some of the other stuff that was happening, because I'm pretty sure this happened pre Beanie
Ditching or
separation.
whatever. Yeah.
Oh, which also, by the way, I don't know if you noticed this, but Beanie's new best friend, that's Catherine Newton. From like Pikachu Detective, or like what's that, the movie with like Vince Vaughn, where he's like trying to murder her because he stole her body or whatever. She's in better stuff than what I'm mentioning.
I'm looking right now. Hold on. Oh, Big Little Lies.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, the daughter from Big Little Lies. She was also in 3 Billboards,
Yeah,
Blockers, like her. That's her, just with glasses and fake braces.
Interesting.
And like a heavy braid.
Yeah.
Which I remember seeing her the first time and thinking to myself, why does that person look familiar? And then the second time they popped up on screen, I like paused it and I was like, okay, I have to see who Darlene is. I was like, wait, that's Catherine Newton.
Yeah. That's
but the other redeeming part was when the scene where Danny asked her not to tell anybody that he was gay.
Yeah.
Because he was like,
he hasn't come out yet.
This is huge. 1, like it's coming out, and 2, I think they did a really good job of setting up the scene of where they lived before that. And it was an extremely religious town.
Big Irish Catholic family.
Big Irish Catholic family, and he was like this is going to be really hard when it happens. And so I need you not to tell anyone, because I need to be prepared for it. Especially after, like, for her, this was her boyfriend that had said, I love you to each other.
Right.
And then she finds out that he is cheating on her. For her to be able to take that place of being like, yes, of course I won't tell anybody. And like her being like really assuring, and just being a friend at that point, I think that was another very redeeming quality for her in the movie. But it also came kind of early,
right?
And she was able to do a lot of other shitty stuff after that.
Able to forget about that real quick. As Scott also mentioned too, yeah, it was 2002, so it's a completely different time.
A completely
for people
different
coming
time.
out and things like that too.
Yep. I mean, when they went to his house. And his grandma had that Reagan poster up.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, is this a joke? And he was like, no.
No. Yeah, that's true.
So I think they did a good job of setting that up.
Do they mention what, like, if he did, or I don't remember them doing anything with that really afterwards.
I don't think we get to see him come out. I think we know that he is gay, and we know that Saoirse and him in some way, shape, or form reform a friendly relationship. But I don't think we ever get to see like what happens to the rest of his life. We don't get to see any more interactions with presumably his boyfriend. We don't get to see if he ever made it to Paris. We do get to see him in a play again where he crushes it, and we also get to see him again at, forget what was, I don't know, it's like Chili's or something, wherever they were. I don't remember what restaurant it was. But I mean, he's kind of the reason her mom stops talking to her, because he's the one who brings up the wait list.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
So we do see him again, but as far as like how he progresses as a person, we don't really know.
You don't really know. Okay, that's what I thought too. Yeah, it would have been interesting just to see where that would have gone. Because yeah, I mean, it is still a big deal for people. And in his situation, it would have been wild.
Just significantly worse.
Yeah.
All right. I'll ask you this question. Maybe Micah can like type in his response.
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time with how I want to I guess, like, rate this movie, because like,
Mm-hmm.
I know it's not full on her life,
Mm-hmm.
but it is kind of based on experiences of her life, whether or not they're super close or not. Who knows? She might not want to say they're super close because, again, Lady Bird sucks,
Right.
and like you don't necessarily want to be painted as that person, even if it is your childhood. That's still not ideal, especially for somebody in Hollywood. But like, I had this whole conversation with myself about if a movie is like this, where it is in a sense autobiographical, is that even something where I, as a not that person, get to go to a place of rating it? Because at that point, I'm rating a person's life as opposed to rating a story that is
Mm-hmm.
made up.
Right.
And I'm curious if you had any of that same kind of thought process, or if you have any kind of feelings on that, you know? Because like, you know, if we're sitting here reviewing Dune, that shit's not real. I can say whatever I want about Dune.
Mm-hmm.
It's as fictional can get. But like, you know, this is like someone's life. This is someone's upbringing. This is someone's experiences. So sure, it is put into movie form, and
Mm-hmm.
like I can certainly critique the shot decisions or the set design in a
Mm-hmm.
way. But like as far as the actual like content of what's going on, it feels weird to put like a 5 out of 5 on
Right.
someone's like middle school experience or something, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is an interesting question. I think I mean I guess I don't really look at films that way where
Hmm.
I'm thinking of separating the two things because it's a whole story that this person's decided to tell and show, and or you know they've had the opportunity and the fortune to put this out there. Um and so I guess I don't necessarily feel bad about having I mean, I guess it'd be different if I'm putting the movie out there and it's about me and it's going and everyone's like, yeah, dude, fucking 1 out of 10, this dude sucks. Hate this shit. Yeah, I'm not gonna be like, oh, this is really constructive criticism. I'm really, you know, like I don't think I'm gonna take that super great. Maybe I will. I have no idea. That's never easy for anybody in
Yeah.
any art field or anything artistic and anything you put your heart and soul into, and someone comes at you with like, yeah, I don't really like this. You're not like, it's hard to not take that stuff personal. I mean, one thing I can admire in her telling the story, if it is somewhat based on her experiences and things like that, which I think you could try to do with almost every movie, is to take away something. Lady Bird is a bad character, like not a likable character and whatnot in her actions and things, but that's an opportunity for you to reflect on yourself a little bit and see like you can see things that maybe you've done or have, you know, like you're doing, but like you have the self-awareness to know like shit, I didn't even think like I feel like it's just something that people don't connect with, but then you're seeing it somehow. And so I guess I'm looking at it in that sense where they've chosen to tell me this story. So I'm going to just rate it in the sense of how the film is presenting it, whether it's good or bad. It's not always going to be good and it's not always going to be terrible per se. And I think the more truthful and the more honest they can be with that stuff, whether it's good or shitty, I think is important. And I think that's what I admire with stuff like that, because I'm sure it's not it wouldn't be easy to, if that was even the shitty things that Ladybird does, if there's truth to it, I'm hoping to God that she's better than, you know, like she's grown from that experience, if that is actually her experience and things like that. So I think, I guess kind of circling back to your question, I don't necessarily feel bad about scoring that kind of thing if I have to, just because I mean I'm trying to think of like biopics and things that I would see where it's like, yeah, this movie fucking sucks, or you know, like, yeah, like this dude's story is terrible.
I'm thinking about it from like the perspective of say like I don't know, like say like what, like Invictus or something like that, you know? Or it's like if it's a movie about a major historical event, then I go into it more like, are they accurately telling the story, or are they telling the story well? You
Right.
know, like, is this actually true to history and there's like a little bit of dramatization in order to, put butts in the seats, um, then it's just like, okay, I'm looking at it from a completely different perspective. Whereas like this is smaller scale. I think Greta Gerwig would agree with me that she is not a gigantic historical figure at this point. So she kind of sits in a different class, if you will. So I would look at her telling her story a little bit different than I would a movie about like Nelson Mandela.
Right.
So it's so much more personal to where I'm just like, and I don't even know if it's so much that I feel bad. It's more so like I think I literally go to a place of like, do I even have the right to look at somebody's story that way? Like, should I, if it is that way, should I just straight up go to the place of, let me make sure like the cinematography is right, or like, you know, because even if you go to say like soundtrack, you can't really judge that either, because if the songs that are in that movie are specific to them and what was going on, I can't judge that. Like, do I dislike Dave Matthews Band with the Fire of a Thousand Suns? Absolutely. But like, if that song was important to her and had like the meaning such as that in her life, and she put it in the movie, great, excellent. Glad you included it, because that gives me more context into who you are. I can't judge you for picking Dave Matthews Band. I could say you have a shitty taste in music, sure, but like you putting it in the music or you putting it in the movie, no, I can't say anything about that. So it's like, yeah, I would go to, this scene was too dark, or like I don't like how close they shot this, because I would want to see other people. Which actually, that was another point I had. Every time her and her mom had arguments, like in public, there were never people around them like looking at them, which I find just incredibly hard to believe. Like when she was looking for a dress to wear to the Thanksgiving,
or yeah, Thanksgiving, right? Yeah,
the Thanksgiving, like they were screaming at each other at one point. And like the fact that the camera didn't pick up like sales associates or like just somebody else who was in there shopping for like, a shirt or something, just like looking around and being like, I was like, I find that kind of hard to believe.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, that's a choice that I could make. Maybe there's a bigger context to that where they did live in this super like rich part of town, or like adjacent to this super rich part of town, to where that their store just didn't get visited very often because the majority of the people there had enough money to where they didn't think they needed to go to a thrift store. But like, I have to make that up. I have to go to that place. That's not told to me.
Right.
So like I could maybe judge that, but like me just being like, wow, terrible choices made in middle school. Feels weird to put a 5 out of 5 on that or something,
No, I completely get that. Yeah, that's a I don't know. That's a hard thing to I think decide good or bad. Like, is this the right thing?
We also just don't really run into it very often.
No,
like, I mean, this is the first movie of this kind that we've watched on the pod. Like, Hot Fuzz is not
autobiographical.
true to
to a sense.
So I don't know. It's just that's kind of what I was saying. Where like I had more interesting conversations and thoughts after I saw the movie than I did in the entire hour 40 of watching it
while it was going. Yeah. No, that's well, now you have me thinking about that scene, because I didn't even think about it, but it would fit that this movie is from Ladybird's perspective, and her mom says she's very self-absorbed. She doesn't think about other people. And so maybe the camera is showing us what we need to see in that particular scene. So maybe there were people, because like you're saying, like how they're not people noticing, but she doesn't, like Ladybird doesn't even fucking care. It could just be she's just in this fight with her mom. That's all we need to see right now. So that would be my argument of maybe why that could be complete. But
that's a really good point. Yeah, no, since it is from the perspective of Ladybird, like because like I think if you put it in the opposite, where it was from the perspective of her mom, maybe you'd fill that entire place up. You'd think that there were a million people in there looking at her and like looking down on her, but because it is from the perspective of Ladybird, she just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. That's an incredible point. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that is a good question. I would be interested to hear Micah's thoughts on that. So Micah, I hope that you continue watching this and you can chime in with your thoughts on this at some point, because I'd love to hear it. So oh man, and we're not going to get Micah's rating on this. This makes me sad. He's not going to record this. He can watch this. He can watch this later and record it. Is there any other?
I mean, this is literally what he was talking about at the beginning of the podcast, where he's like, "What if we all just recorded our own pieces and put it in?" So, I mean, he wished it into existence.
He did. Micah, record your own, so I'll cut it in somehow, and it'll be a fucking mess. But I'll try and see.
Yeah, you gotta watch this VOD, record your answer to my question, and then we gotta splice it in. So
I'll cut it
there
in.
you go, buddy.
Can we get a few seconds of you just look like nodding and looking at the camera, and I can
Yeah.
I never thought of it like that. Okay, yeah. There we go. So I'll just loop that while Micah talks.
It's true. That's true. Good point, Micah. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, Micah. That doesn't really sit with me.
That's a pretty garbage take on that, Micah. Okay, Jesus.
Listen, Micah, you're just completely wrong. All right, you're off base here. Okay, there you go. Can you use that?
Yeah. No, that's plenty of stuff for me to use. Yeah, thank you.
I'm trying to see if there's anything else big that I had. I don't think so. I got I think oh, this is just like another relating thing. It's always weird to me when people curse their parents.
Is it?
You
never did?
Not in a million fucking years. I curse a lot, but you know why? It's because I'm not around my parents. I think I've done it twice in my life, and it was in their vicinity and never at them or directed to anything that could even be slightly related to them.
That's funny.
And like, it's so foreign to me that I remember the 2 times that I did it. And so like, whenever I see, because I grew up with kids who would talk to their parents that way and just like call their like moms like bitches and like tell them like fuck off and stuff like that. And I when it happened, I just remember sitting there just like, what's happening? But like, yeah, like seeing it in movie form too, I'm still just like 30 years old, just still sitting there just like, oh, you can say that?
I got comfortable swearing around my parents probably like around like 16 or 17. It was like just be me telling stories and I'd just be like bullshit. I got real comfortable swearing around them and whatnot. I never called them. I would never like go to my mom like, you're an absolute bitch, mom. I would never say that to my mom.
Yeah.
No. Or my dad. I would never say that to any of them. I mean, I'm just not really like that with people in general. I mean, I don't know. But it's I guess that part's not as jarring. I mean, it's still depends on the context of the scene and whatnot, if it's I guess with Ladybird, it's I don't know. I mean, it makes sense with your experience that's like you see that happen. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ, like my God. So that's pretty funny though.
It still gets me to this day, no matter what form of media I'm watching. If there's ever like a 18 or younger person that curses at their parents, it like my neck tightens up.
Shakes you. Yeah.
It's like, oh. That's another reason why those scenes are so tense for me, because like they would go after one another. Like the scene where she's like, write down a number so that I can make that much money and then I can never speak to you again.
Yeah.
Never. Well, first of all, didn't have that bad of a relationship with my parents. But second of all, could never in a million years imagine I would have the gall to say something like that to my parents.
There was oh man, that scene, and then also the scene where the mom found out about the wait list, and they're in the kitchen, and she's just like begging her mom to talk to her, and she would not talk to her. Like that scene was pretty gut wrenching to watch, just because you could just it just felt bad, and the mom was just so fucking pissed, and you knew. I guess I might have it's not really swearing at my mom, but there was one time where she did piss me off. and she had her back to me as I was going up the stairs. And so as I went up the stairs, I turned around and then I flipped my mom off behind her back. I didn't say anything. I told her about this years later, and she just cracks the fuck up at that story. She loves it. But I don't remember the context of why. It had to have been something school related. But I guess I did swear at her in that sense, and that's about it. So
I got away with a pretty decent amount of, like, I guess for lack of a better term, rage. Like there would be times where, like, maybe I would slam a door, but like I got like one door slam, and if another door slammed, that was,
yeah,
I was gonna answer for it, if you will.
right.
So yeah, those kind of like parent child interactions are just so foreign to me personally. I'd say that, I don't know. I think the most gut-wrenching one was when she asked her mom if she liked her,
Yeah.
and her mom said, "Of course I love you." And she's like, "No, but
Do you
do you
like
like me?"
right?
And her mom had to literally pause and figure out how to answer that question. It's just like,
Yeah.
fuck, man.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had a moment where I've thought about even asking my parents that kind of question. So yeah, it is. That scene did stand out because it was that pause and the phrasing
She said, "I want you to be the best version of you that you
Yeah.
can be."
Yeah.
She didn't answer the question.
No, she did not. I think that's
She couldn't look her daughter. She couldn't even look in the sky and be like, "I like you."
right.
She just had to figure out a way to make sure she didn't tell her daughter she liked her because it wouldn't feel genuine.
Like,
And she loves everyone else. Or I guess Greta goes to extreme lengths to show how much her mom loves everyone else. This the brother's sister or boyfriend or girlfriend talks about how she took her in and how she admires her mom. The first time we see her mom is her buying the clothes for that one nurse's like newborn, and he talks about how she's the best. Even in that thrift store scene, before they start arguing, she's talking to the cashier and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I have to see pictures of your baby." It's like literally she likes, or at the very least is decent to everyone else in her life. But her and Ladybird, that doesn't exist in the slightest. The nicest she was ever to her was when she took her to go house hunting, because it's something I like to do after that one Kyle thing. But outside of that, or I guess also she did sew her daughter's dress before going over. But I think you could even argue she was going over to the house of rich people and she wanted to make sure her daughter didn't look like trash because she's said so much previously.
Yeah.
So like the nicest thing she did was help her forget about her terrible first time having sex.
It wasn't like, I thought that was another interesting thing too, is how casual they were with, like, I mean, and I'm not saying that every parent was that way with their kids and sex, but I guess it is just jarring, the attitude towards it of very kind of just like, it's just something, and that could be the case, but I guess my experience and how I would see it represented with teens is always like absolutely, like, what do you do? Like, no way. Like, it was just different. And I was not expecting that with the parents, where it's just casually kind of, and I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong. It's just different. It's just not what I was expecting with the mom. And now she was strict with so many other things. But actually, I guess that comes back to you.
Because of the end.
Yeah.
Her being a teen mom.
Yeah. So I guess that does make sense. So
but yeah, you have to talk about it like differently, because like you had a much different experience. Like, I mean, sure, she could have gone the other way and be like, "Oh no, I had a kid really early and you should not have sex. It's dangerous, yada yada." But she's like,
right.
I mean, shit, go to college, use protection.
Yep.
Don't be an idiot.
Yep.
Have fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the "I like you" thing, Ryan talks about this all the time, but language is important. And that scene, I feel like, strikes where that's not what she's asking, and she's not responding to the question, and it shows, and it gets very uncomfortable very fucking quick. So
it's interesting because it also doesn't really, like, I mean, it hits her, but it doesn't really hit her as hard as you think something like that be, because I think she just already knew. And she's like, "Fuck it, let me see if I can get some confirmation here." And she got it, and she's like, "All right."
Yep.
Yeah. It's I can understand how this would be a very hard watch for certain people.
Yeah.
And having to like see this interaction between a mom and a daughter, because again, like I was saying at the beginning, this can be really representative of some relationships
With
that
kids. Yeah.
people have with their moms.
Yeah.
I mean, it hit me, and I'm just coming at it as a perspective from like a dude who I don't. It feels weird to like say it this way, but like I have some advanced knowledge on parental relationships or whatever.
Yeah.
So like even from there, it's just like fuck. This is hard to watch. There were definitely scenes where like I was like sitting there like watching them interact, and I was like, oh, it hurts. And her dad, he has his own struggles,
Right.
and he can't really get involved in that because also, I mean, good for him. He doesn't get involved in that. Getting triangulated in that would suck.
Oh, that'd be terrible.
Uh,
Terrible. I did like
so yeah.
he's like, she's like, are you guys gonna get a divorce? He's like, no, we can't afford to get one.
Yeah, we can't afford a divorce. You kidding me? Those are expensive.
Which, I mean, I don't think that would have mattered anyway, but I just thought that was funny.
It would have been cool to see more of their relationship because like you kind of have to assume how the relationship works. I mean, one could say he was scared of her because he was like, hey, here's the financial aid, don't tell your mom.
Right.
Hey, here's the wait list, we're not going to tell your mom. Your mom found out about the wait list, fuck. like you could, I mean, I assume they loved each other, but it could also just been like a we're staying together for the kids type situation. But it's more stuff you have to infer. Like I wish they would have spent more time on these things than some of the other things that they spent time on.
I think,
or give us 10 more minutes. Which
there's an interesting subreddit where it's called Fix the Movie, or so it's like Fix This Movie or Fix the Movie, and it's essentially like, but that shit's so hard, like, because you could sit there and speculate all fucking day, like, oh, you know what I would, but like, it's not as simple as just simply doing some things. There's so many factors that it could have been a production thing, it could have been a time thing, it could have been, there's 1,000 things.
Could have just been a straight up budget thing where they're like, if we put 10 more minutes into this movie, we're bankrupt. We don't have money for 10 more minutes of this movie.
Yeah. And so but it is still an interesting thing to just ponder as a viewer of like, okay, well, what would what could change to make this movie go from a 3 stars to a 5 for me or something kind of thing. But yeah, it's oh man, I had a point and now I don't remember what it was gonna be. What was it? It was something. Oh, the scene. Oh yeah, the scene with the parents at the beginning. They're in the bathroom talking, and it's very just kind of like casual. And to me, I took that. I thought they were foreshadowing that the dad was gonna die or something because they were talking about whoever.
Really?
Yeah, well, they were just like, it was just so weird how they were talking about it, and she's like, yeah, he died real young or something like that. And I was like, oh shit, dude, something's gonna be happening to the dad. Like, I don't know why they're showing me this scene. I don't know. It was just like, because they've got all the dialogue in the world that they could have put into that, but they're talking about someone dying, and that's what the parents talk about. And maybe it sets up the dynamic of the one bathroom in the house, because I know that came up later with mom talking about the towels. So maybe it's kind of setting up the household dynamic of they've only got so much space, whatever.
It happened again with the computer where he's like, this is why we have computer time, because it's in our room. Yeah. So yeah, that could have been it. I took it as more of a like trying to give us insight into what their relationship was like. Like that's just kind of how they talk to one another. It's the morning, they're both spending time in the bathroom just shooting the shit together, because that's
privacy.
Partners.
That's the privacy room maybe or something. Yeah.
That's kind of how I took it. But it is interesting to hear that you took it as like,
it's like,
this dude's gonna die.
I was just like, man, they're foreshadowing something. What's going on here? Yeah,
I think that's more of the euphoria coming in for you.
I'm kind of bummed, and it's unfortunate that I can't. That show was so fresh in my brain. Yeah, I couldn't really turn that part of it off to watch this, in a sense. And I think it's unfair to the movie and it's just it's just my experience. It's what it is. I can't help it, but yeah, it's like that's probably euphoria brain.
That's fair. There's very few other shows that you could watch that would put you in a mindset that Euphoria does, especially because you also, what did you do season 2 in 3
Probably
days?
about 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
So you put it all in there. So like everything was as almost as fresh as it could have been. Like the only way it could have been more fresh is if you like watched Euphoria in a day, you know? So you took a, for lack of a better term, high octane show, consumed it super quick, and then you watched what I think we can all agree was a rather slow movie. So you switched gears completely. So yeah, it's hard for you to not
It was a little
have some
bit
of that in your brain. Yeah.
it
So
was
I
a
get
little
it.
bit lower. Yeah. It
Mhm.
was
I think it would have been better if we watched, like, if you would watch Euphoria and then we watched like Uncut Gems. That would have been a better pace because you probably would have been somewhat prepared for Uncut Gems
yeah.
if you came onto it from Euphoria. But yeah, Euphoria to Ladybird, nah.
Yeah. All right. I think are you ready to? I am curious on yours. I can go first with mine because yours I think is a little more suspenseful. But I think
Yeah, you can go first.
I think that my rating with this movie, I'd probably give it a 3. I'd probably go 3 out of 5. Maybe it's like flirting with like yeah, I would say 3. 3 and a 3 pause. Well, I won't say boop because the boop's the extra 5. So yeah, 3 pause for me on Ladybird. I love it because you don't even know yet right now. You're still thinking.
I think I do know, but I don't know. It's weird. I think it's a fail for me because it's not a bad movie. I don't think it's fair to say that it is a bad movie. I think it's fair to say it's just fine. Like I left the movie feeling just fine. And like when I talked to other people about the movie, their interpretation of it was like now, I think it'd be interesting to talk to more people. They're like, yeah, like as time has gone on, I went from thinking it was a good movie to either thinking it's just fine or thinking it's not great. Like nobody I talked to was like, yeah, this movie's incredible. Nobody I talked to was like, this is a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. Most of the people I talked to are like, it's just fine. And I too think it is just fine. But I think because my scale is one or the other, um, I don't think just fine cuts it for me. So I think it's another fail. I don't remember what I gave. I'm pretty sure I gave Swiss Army Man a fail. I don't remember if I was doing that rating scale by then.
Yeah, I don't remember either. We need Micah. Where'd you go, Micah?
Yeah, literally the person who keeps track of all this is the one who's gone. But like, am I gonna recommend Ladybird to anybody? No, I'm not. Like, if anybody's gonna be like, "Oh, I've never seen Ladybird, should I watch it?" I'm gonna say no. Like, there's other things you can spend your time on.
Yeah,
it's like if you want to see really intense mother-daughter relationship for about 20 minutes, sure, go ahead and watch it. But like, if that's not what you're looking for, fine. Like the comedy itself, I don't think it was the most spectacularly funny movie. Maybe that's because I just didn't like Ladybird. I can see where the comedy was supposed to be, but I think maybe out of this whole movie, I laughed out loud maybe 2 or 3 times. The funniest part of the movie to me was when she took her driving test and she was like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
And the dude was like, not a thank you situation. You either pass or you fail.
Yep.
That was hilarious. I laughed very hard at that. But like, I don't know, maybe I laughed when Beanie got called Jules and loved it. I did laugh at that part.
Those scenes were great. The scenes with the math teacher, and they're just like, oh my God. I don't know.
That was another thing that we never really touched on. Is like they went to the bar and like saw her math teacher with like someone else, and then the next time we see that dude is with his pregnant wife. That storyline just goes to the wayside.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess it's more foreshadowing about like maybe how her town sucked and it just wasn't talked about. But again, that is something else that I have to infer or make up. I don't know. I don't know what the movie wants to tell me in those moments. You know? They're like the mother-daughter relationship. It wants to tell me that this was very hard. It wants to tell me that this was full of turmoil. I get it. The religion parts of the movie, it wants to tell that there was a complicated relationship with religion. It wants to tell me that people who were gay weren't accepted in the community. Um, that stuff is clear, but like there's all these other things in there that I just have to sit there wondering that I just don't know, which is probably why the main thing was 350. Like if this was a book, it could be a great book. There's so much more space you could tell. Even if you did like a mini series of this show, you could probably give us more because say you do 8 episodes, hour each. You got 8 hours, or 30 minutes each. You got 4 hours, but that's still more time to expand upon that stuff. But like, I just don't.
Yeah.
I just let it's fine, and that's a fail for me, I guess.
I think that's completely fair.
Yeah.
I think I honestly too knowing. But it's just hard because it's not fair to compare this movie to Get Out. But it like you ask me 100% of the time, I'm gonna if you can. Get Out can get a little spooky and weird. So if you could tolerate that stuff, Get Out is subjectively more enjoyable of an experience than Ladybird was for me by a long shot. So, but I do want to say I don't think it's fair to compare.
Yeah,
like,
no.
I'm not gonna be sitting there like, man, I'm really in the mood for Ladybird, or like those two things are never coming into play for me. But
yeah, that I think I'm able to leave that out of my rating and keep it separate. I think the movie standing on its own for me is an F.
Yeah,
the movie going up against Get Out,
yeah,
they're not even in the same classroom. Like,
yeah.
It's
so weird. That's
unreal, dude.
I don't know.
I almost want to go back through all the awards and be like, has there ever been a worse decision in that category?
I don't even know.
Oh, Rudy.
Oh shit, dude, what's up? He's just looking away. He doesn't know. Yeah, I honestly don't know. That's where like the politics and stuff with these kinds of movies or like the awards and stuff I always think about now too. Like the whole Moonlight La La Land thing was like Moonlight. Those are both great movies. I enjoyed both and whatnot. But that whole thing where, granted, that was just that dude misreading that fucking card. So it wasn't like oh my god, the votes just came in at the last minute or something. But it's interesting to know the people that are making the decisions for this shit. They don't even watch. They're asking other people like, oh, like what'd you pick? Like, what the fuck? Like, just come to your own conclusion on this. But I don't know.
I don't know if I want to watch Francis Ha now, to be honest with you.
I've watched it maybe once or twice, and there was that movie came out in 2012, so it's been a long time since I've seen it. And that was kind of at a trend with movies where it was very like, kind of this, very like it's not, there's not really a plot. It's just like things happen kind of thing, and it's just her. It felt a little more grounded in reality, I guess, to a sense, and how it kind of went about the movie. But I honestly couldn't tell you like, oh, that movie has aged well. You will enjoy it. I don't know, because she didn't. I don't know if she had a hand in writing it or anything, and I'm not.
He's a co-writer.
She's a co-writer, and then Noah directed.
Noah Baumbach is directed and written by those two, but directed by Noah.
By him. Okay. Yeah.
Wait, is it actually in black and white?
I think the whole thing is. Yeah, so it's
I'm not watching that. I'm out. Yeah,
already out.
I'm out. A black and white movie in 2012. Yeah, right. I'm not watching that. Although I do kind of want to watch Roma. I will make an exception for Roma. I will watch that.
Roma was good.
Yeah,
I did enjoy Roma.
That one is another one that gets a lot of critical acclaim, which would lead me to be like, you know what? Maybe I should put the black and white stuff to the side and actually watch it. But I'm not watching Francis Ha. No way. Decisions made. Thanks. Nice and easy.
You're welcome. Glad I can help. Yeah. Hopefully we can get Micah's take on this, because as this discussion went on, I think it got more interesting with this entire process of the film.
I agree.
I mean, I feel like just based on the beginning, we all were kind of just in the middle with this, and it's just kind of further confirms a lot of stuff with Rotten Tomato. and how we kind of look at this stuff off the air, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it is a good point of reference, but it should never be the primary determining factor in how you see a movie.
mhm.
Like if it like pushes you on one side or the other, like whether or not you want to see it, okay, sure. I got certified fresh. Cool. I have to see what all the buzz is about, or I have to see what the 75% buzz is about. Fine. But like it should never be like this movie got a so and so on Rotten Tomatoes, therefore it's a good movie. Like, no.
Yeah.
We're leaving that behind. What's this called? I want to see what it got on Letterboxd, what its score is at. It's currently sitting at a 3.9. Too high.
Interesting.
Out of 22,000 reviews, it's at a 3.9.
I wonder how.
Wait, I don't know how. It's fans. That's 22,000 fans. Actually, it doesn't tell me how many total reviews that is.
Yeah, I mean, that would be interesting too to see how, because like you said, just in the 5 years since it's come out, people have kind of swayed more towards like, like, you know, it's okay. You know.
Here we go. 755,714 people have rated this movie.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
So it's a lot. And it has 95,000 reviews. Almost 96,000. 463,000 people liked it, and it has almost basically 22,000 fans. 1.1 million watches.
Oh, it's part of the 1 million watch club
on Letterboxd.
Interesting.
1.1 million watches.
There's not a lot of movies, at least on Letterboxd. Like that's a small list on Letterboxd, I think.
They hit 1 million?
Because they make when I follow their Twitter and stuff, they always make a big deal when a movie hits it now. So that's interesting. Ladybird is one of those movies.
Trying to see if another Midsommar's got 1.1 million.
I think Eternal Sunshine just hit 1 million on there.
Do we think this is just an A24 hype thing? Like Uncut Gems. Let's see how many watches. That's got to have over 1 million, right? Ratings. 744,000.
Interesting.
Okay. I had no idea the watch thing was a big deal. That's something else I'll have to look at whenever we do movies now.
Yeah, here, I'll post it in chat for people that want to look at it and are interested. This person's got a list going.
Of the ones that hit over 1 million?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. No Way Home.
No, Get Out is on there, though. Parasite.
No Way Home hasn't hit it.
Endgame isn't. Yeah, there's Ladybird. Yep.
Wait, what's the one that just came out? Isn't it No Way Home?
Yeah, that's the newest one.
Yeah, it's only got 793,000.
Which honestly, that's kind of nuts because that movie's only been out for. And granted, this is also people that are only recording this stuff on Letterboxd, but it's still an interesting metric.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Man, Letterboxd is fascinating. I can't wait to dive more into this just as an ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dang it. I forgot to look for my favorite review. I knew there was one thing I forgot to do.
The MPAA number for this film was 51,180. So.
And just for people who don't know, what does that mean again, Sean?
The Motion Picture of America, or Association of America. So whenever they rate the movie and whatnot, they have to go through the MPAA, and it's in America. It's a whole system they have in place. And so that was Ladybird's number and whatnot. So
people quoting the Miguel interaction.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Feels like a wrap-up spot here. For those that are listening and want to join our Discord, we talk about movies and stuff in there all the time and all sorts of good stuff. But you can help us decide what we're going to watch next if you join the Discord and you're curious enough. So make sure to join that. Links and all that stuff will be in the info. So make sure to follow us on all that stuff. Keep up to date on the haps, if you will. And I don't think we have, or no, we're gonna be watching Good Time with Ryan next week. I think is that the plan?
Is that next week or the week after? I
I-
was actually wondering that.
I want to say he said the week after.
Next week?
I think so.
Okay.
So tentatively, we will have Ryan back on. So, but we'll make sure to keep you all updated on that. Why that movie? Yeah. Why did we pick Good Time with that one? Was it just what was the logic behind? I had seen it, so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll watch it. So.
I think we sent Ryan like a list of movies or whatever, and he was like, "This one seems interesting, maybe."
Okay.
Or it might have just been straight up like you said that it was a movie you think Ryan would have liked, and he was just like, "Cool, good enough for me."
We're gonna see.
I mean, I've never seen it. You have seen it?
I have not. No.
Oh, you just know about it.
I know of Good Time. Yeah.
Oh, has Micah seen it?
I don't know.
I thought one of you had seen it and like essentially raved about it, which is why it was potentially on our list.
No, I don't know. I mean,
okay.
And that would be interesting for all four of us to go into a movie fresh. So,
yeah, all four. I mean, this is our first all three.
Yeah, I wouldn't come in. It wouldn't be like Hot Fuzz where I'm coming in with my bias and love for that movie. So,
this would be me and Nick Norris. So yeah, it would be nice.
This would be a little fresher for everybody. So, but that is the plan right now. Follow Discord and us on Twitter and stuff to stay up to date on all that good stuff. I'm also real sad that Micah dropped out in the middle of this with his internet, but hopefully we can fix that for next time. But
you just got to get and record his opinions.
Yeah.
You know, and we'll tack it on.
Get it in there.
Be a fun editing day for Sean.
Will it? Will that be a fun day?
Yeah, fun's the word.
Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, friends, stick around. I'll find somewhere for us to raid if you're watching us right now. If you're listening to us, appreciate you for listening. You're all great. We'll see you soon. Stick around. Goodbye, everyone.